So free speech is replaced by compelled speech. We have government departments pushing inclusion. Even in our parliament, you don't get a female-only space when it comes to a toilet or a bathroom. What is your silence and kindness worth? Is it worth the safety, privacy and dignity and sanity, quite frankly, of small children? Well, good afternoon. My name is Kellie-Jay Keen. I'm from England, and I started a campaign quite some time ago which focused on language. So I was going to apologise, but I'm not going to. I'm going to be very accurate with my language. I'm a woman, a mother and a wife, and the language I'm going to use may make you feel uncomfortable, which frankly is probably quite good. You may even be offended, because you may have already surrendered some of your language and thoughts to this ideology known as transgenderism. So I'm going to say this afternoon. No woman has a penis. No man has a vagina. I would imagine this is a first, right? There is no such thing as non-binary, and transitioning children is profound abuse. So today I want to take you on a little journey of what it means to be a woman. And we all start as infants, and we're born into this world, and a doctor records our sex. We're not assigned, nobody guesses. A doctor looks at us and assesses our biological sex, and that's how we're recorded. And up until about 3.5 minutes ago, that was quite a simple process. And so I want to ask you, when you're thinking about this particular issue, and some of you may disagree, and I'm just going to say to you, if you're already captured by the cult, this speech isn't for you. It's for all of the rest of you who are maybe silent, who feel afraid to speak in public about this, and I'm going to implore you to speak as frequently as you possibly can, because this is urgent. So the girl starts, and she's a toddler, and she's having a wonderful time, and she starts school. And really, in fact, it might even be kindergarten that it starts to be a little bit dangerous for that girl, or children in general, because the nursery teachers are beginning to introduce children to the concept of gender identity. And really, what is that when you're 3? Well, I mean, it's the same as if you're 50. It's nonsense. It doesn't really exist. It exists in a trans activist's head, and maybe some of you might now believe that it does exist, and I'm here to tell you it's nonsense. So when they're 3, it might depend on, and we have some displays in the UK where children are shown something, and it's got a Barbie at one end, and it's got a G.I. Joe, like an Action Man toy, at the other end, and then a child is asked to pick themselves on a scale. But that's simply choices about what they want to play with, and I would hope that we're all a little bit past that children are allowed to just be children. So the little girl then at kindergarten, she might be asked repeatedly if she wants short hair or plays football, whether or not she really is a girl. And I'd like to say that that's just maybe that could happen, but unfortunately it's happening all the time. And if it's happening in the UK, I'm pretty sure it's happening in schools right across Europe. It happens in the United States of America, Canada, Australia. And in fact, in Australia, they go one step further, where they talk about the sexualization of children, and they say that when children touch their own bodies, it's a sexual act, like as babies, which is in government literature in the west of Australia. Like it's once you open the door to this ideology, all bets are off on the safeguarding of children. So the teacher, who often is an activist teacher, they've been training, because in most places in the world, teachers are quite young. And in the UK, they're a lot cheaper. The younger they are, the less experienced. And so they've just left a captured university, and they feel that, A, they know better than parents about children, and they're quite happy to keep secrets, tell children secrets, lie to children. And again, I'll tell you a brief story about this. I went to a school with a mother who was concerned about her autistic daughter. And the school confirmed that, well, after a lot of wrangling, because they tried to deny it, but they confirmed that if that 7-year-old girl had referred to a boy in her class who referred to himself as a girl, she would be punished as if she was bullying that child. Like it really is everywhere. And the books that the schools introduce sound all nice and lovely, and the word inclusion and kind is often used, and they are not. They're anything but kind. And they will teach children indoctrinate children into the concept of gender identity. And they won't tell parents. And when parents quiz, which is what myself and this mother did, the teachers lied. They lied. They said, this is not anything to do with gender identity. And I won't bore you with the story because it was incredibly tedious. But those two teachers who said that had safeguarding leads around their necks, as they told the mother that they would encourage her daughter to lie, and also to keep a secret that that boy really was a girl and not to tell anyone. So the teachers tell her to be kind. Her embarrassment about wanting a female-only space will be treated as bigotry. And what that girl is learning, in fact, the boys as well, but if I just stick to girls, just because I used to be one, she learns that her boundaries really don't matter. They're up for grabs, and if she talks about her boundaries at all, she will be told that she is unkind. So she learns that kindness means silence. And she also learns that adults are prepared to lie and make her lie, and lie to her mum and dad. So I'm just asking, what is your silence and kindness worth? Is it worth the safety, privacy and dignity and sanity, quite frankly, of small children? So as puberty begins, which is for any women in this room, it's not the most exciting time for us. It comes with a huge, great big dollop of embarrassment, and little girls turn for kind of quite free and easy to understanding what it means to nearly be a woman. And instead of love and patience, often these girls, especially gender non-conforming girls, will learn that being uncomfortable, that there may well be an opt-out, and she can choose to start taking puberty blockers or pretending to be a boy. So she's offered puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and mastectomies. The war on breasts is absolutely insane. Girls are just, girls used to do it with anorexia. It's not like we've not seen these sort of epidemics before. Anorexia and cutting, these are all things that girls like to spread around their friendship groups, and breast binding is one of them. I suspect we are all quite anti-foot binding, and yet some people just go along with breast binding as if it's an accessory, as opposed to complete irreparable harm. And behind it all, there is a billion-dollar pharmaceutical and surgical industry, which kind of goes against this idea that this is a left-wing ideal. It's totally not. It's so super capitalist, I can't even begin. The government calls it healthcare, and what we did with our NHS is we sterilise children and call it affirmation. We eradicate their sexual function, and we call it liberation for them. We say that this is really where they're supposed to be and what they're supposed to do. And our NHS, actually, the reason we started doing this at the Tavistock is there was a case of a girl that was highly traumatised. Her mother had died. She had a very aggressive, violent father. And I've heard the Tavistock talk about this, and the man that started the puberty blockers talks about this as if it's a source of pride for him, that what he did, even though he knew that girl was simply trying to escape the trauma, giving her puberty blockers was actually the answer, which I frankly find completely deplorable. And they take they steal the future of these children and they call it compassion. So is this the kindness? Is your silence worth sacrificing the fertility and sexual function of children that can never be repaired? So then she gets through adolescence, she meets someone she falls in love with and she becomes pregnant. And then we find the language loss, which is she might be told she's a birthing person, not a mother. She might be told that she's chest feeding, not breastfeeding. And this is just one of the ways that they erase what it means to be woman. And you do it in two ways. One, you make woman mean nothing and everything. So the word woman now, for some people, needs a qualifier. So you need to say, well, they will, I'm not even going to say the word because I think it will make me ill. But they will put a prefix on the word woman, and I refuse. And then when it comes to our body parts, actually, in some literature, the only person allowed a vagina is a man who's had one artificially created, and a woman is given the terminology for her vagina is a front hole, which I'm so sorry to say these things in these rooms, but it is something I think you need to hear. Men are entering antenatal classes, and in fact, men who have taken crazy levels of hormones to have fake breasts are now welcomed into chest feeding groups, where they are allowed to, in my mind, sexually assault a baby by placing that fake breast into a baby's mouth to have the concoction, the drug-filled concoction, sucked from that man's chest. That woman who's had the baby, she will be ashamed to use the word mother. She will be told that the words woman and mother are offensive, that they're exclusionary. Government documents, NHS forms and charities all erase the word woman. In fact, in your lovely country, Ashley, of Canada, there was a special page for cervical cancer for men who call themselves women. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure they've yet to create a cervix for those men. Again, this is what happens when you're silent. So with adulthood, you might join your workforce. You might be told that you have to use pronouns in your bio. You might not have a female-only space. You might know that if you complain about, as I might refer him, Dave, who is wearing female clothing, if he's using your female-only space, it's likely that you're not allowed to complain to HR because you will put a target on your back. And that's if you don't come across the police. So I've been interviewed 3 times by the British police for the crime of saying that it's wrong to castrate a 16-year-old boy, for calling men men, for refusing to use she, her for men who pretend to be women. And I also had the police at my door for being, and I promise to you that this is true, untoward about paedophiles. So I said to the police officer, I think, actually, you can be quite mean about paedophiles in 2025. He said he wasn't here to argue, just curtail my speech. So I think we've got about 30 arrests a day in the United Kingdom for crimes against sensitive folk. So free speech is replaced by compelled speech. We have government departments pushing inclusion. Even in our parliament, you don't get a female-only space when it comes to a toilet or a bathroom, despite the fact that it is law and we know it's law. And that's because we have something called work networks that are often consulted. They've got far too much power within workplaces. So then we have the betrayal of female patients, and we have a case in the United Kingdom at the moment, which is looking at nurses. And those nurses were told that the man who wanted to use their changing facility after a grueling shift in the NHS, that they weren't entitled to a female-only space. And what makes that so much worse is right throughout our NHS, not only are they captured, but there are plenty of men who are autogynephiles coming to work dressed as women and imposing themselves on female patients. It's the same in the police force. Our police force, a serving officer who is a man who calls himself a woman, he is allowed to intimately search a female suspect. Now, as a suspect, you do have a right to opt out, but most women who are in trouble with the law don't know this. So when you're in hospital, your medical record might say you were assigned female at birth if you've decided to transition, and then you'll get treated as a male patient. Asking for a female chaperone. There was a woman, she was chronically ill. She asked for a female chaperone when she was having a gynecological exam, and a man walked in. So she was then in the room with 2 men. One admitted he was a man and the other pretended that he was a man. So incredibly vulnerable. And because this woman had built up a relationship with her consultant over a very long time, years, because she was chronically unwell, she didn't feel that she could object. And if he objects, if he says anything, then he is outing somebody at work, and he will be disciplined, may even lose his license to practice. So the NHS policy puts ideology above patient safety. The police force puts ideology over justice. Our justice system has something called the Equality Bench Book, where it was asking female victims of male crime to call the person who had committed the crime against them, refer to them with she, her pronouns. Really, there isn't anywhere that you could think of that should be female-centered that now hasn't been co-opted and taken over by men. And by that I mean support groups for women who have suffered a stillbirth, support groups for women going through menopause, just everywhere. It's such an affront on the work, the decades of work of women in securing our rights, that now these men just pop along, put on a dress, and they have some sort of invisibility cloak, where we no longer see these men as men. We see them as a vulnerable population, which, quite frankly, they are anything but. So then we get into older age for women. And I have met women at my Let Women Speak events, which are free speech events that I do globally. And the lady came along, and she had been to Aquafit. It was her one thing that she did for herself during that entire week. Just that one time she would go, she would hang out with women. They would all get changed. They would go for a drink after. And then a man turned up. And she complained, and she thought she was going to have the backing of all the other women in that room to say, yes, I support you, let's make sure he doesn't come next week. And she found herself in front of the manager on her own, with the manager of that place saying that she, the man, has every right to use that changing room. And so what happens to that woman? Well, she self-excludes. What happened to the girls in sports? Well, they don't go anymore. They don't go to soccer anymore. What happens to the women in the breastfeeding support? Well, they don't go anymore. What happens to the women in rape crisis centres? They choose to just try and help themselves because they know that that sector is completely co-opted. And they fell first. You'd think that they wouldn't. The women that fought for women's rights, you'd think they would stand firm. But they fell first, which tells me that they never actually believed any of it in the first place. And it was all a bit of a vanity project. So that's it really from me. I've lots more to say, but time is something that apparently doesn't identify itself. It actually happens. But I just want to say to all of you that whilst you're sitting happily not confronting this issue head on, girls across Europe are having their breasts sliced off. You can't put them back. Children across Europe are having their fertility stolen, their sexual function stolen. And I don't know what's going to happen to young men when they realise that they can't actually have a functioning sex life. I don't know how angry they will be. I don't know who they will blame. But I can safely say it won't be me. But it might be you. It might be you if you're in a position of power or authority and you haven't used it yet. So I beg of you to use it. I will on this occasion say, let men speak, but as always, let women speak. Thank you.